A phrase that you will often hear in the arts and at fringe and arts festivals from performers and sometimes to performers who are not having a great time with things is, don't forget it's all about the work. Stay focused on the work. And the work is the piece of art that you've created. That might be a performance, that might be a painting, it might be an art installation, it might be a theatre show. And the work is the essence of why you're at that festival, for example. It's the reason that you took the risk. It's the core motivation behind what you've produced, the essence of the work. And there's obviously the outward work itself, the performance that we see, but of course it's so much more than that. It's the restlessness inside you to bring that to the public. It's the restlessness inside you that led to you painting that painting in the first place, or putting on that show, or writing that script, or devising that piece. And the work is very personal to you. If a group have devised it, it is a shared work. And I'm going to put some words around it. It's the spark, it's the mojo, it's the enduring raison d'etre, the reason for being. You could have brought something else, but you didn't. You brought that work. And you might have forgotten as you get into the workflow that that's not the same as the work. The workflow is all the promoting, all the flyering, the emails, the texts, the conversations around the work. And with complete respect to people who have very limited financial resources, who stand to lose a lot of money, it could have serious consequences if that's not successful, at least financially, or in terms of getting a tour booked, or having your work literally bought by people who are walking around the gallery. Though there will be other measures. You might not be showing your work to sell it. You might be showing your work to get comment on it, to see the reaction of people, to maybe affect a change in people or even society. It could be different measures. The workflow is different from the work, and it can take over. And I noticed that going to big festivals like the Edinburgh Fringe is quite quickly, actually I'd quite like the term, you sort of forget yourself, and in this case yourself is very much bound up with the work. It was the thing that created perhaps joyfulness in you as you stood back from that thing that you or a group of you created. And certainly it is the thing that I would suggest for at least most of us is the most important thing. It can even be the sacred thing. It can even be bound up with our identity, our sense of who we are and why we're here. And I often say to people in trouble at the Edinburgh Fringe, and it comes from a place of this kind of love for what they're doing, kind of humble respect, and whether things are going outwardly successfully or not, saying don't forget the work can really, it can revive, it can refresh, it can be a process of remembering. I like that term. You literally put back on your skin, your body, of you that created that piece. You can remember who you were, and you can realise maybe you forgot a bit of yourself for very good reason. Say the stakes are very high at something like the Edinburgh Fringe, literally the money that you've paid out, and you've already worked out how many tickets you need to sell to not go into debt in September when you get back, where there's rent to pay, where there are bills to pay, where the next stage of your work needs funding. But I think it can be useful when times are tough, and even when you're very, very successful. Sometimes you can rise really high on other measures, and then when you later fall, it's because you forgot your connection to the work, because the work is the energy that really drives you. So focusing on the work, I would suggest, is something it's always worth reconnecting with. And I notice that some people in the Edinburgh Fringe, for example, don't read their reviews until they get back home, because they want to stay focused on the work and not anything about the work, but they want to stay in the impulse, the life force of why they're doing what they do, and it remains their focus. And whether something is outwardly successful or not, they remind themselves that they are there primarily for the work that they've created. It can be an enthusiasm, a love to bring it to the public. And performative art is particularly about that. But what some of those people do is they have a kind of morning rhythm, and they might go out on their own for a walk. There are certainly some artists who every day, it takes an hour and a half in Edinburgh, climb up Arthur's Seat, the big kind of cliff-like hill that runs very close to the centre of the city. Others will just walk through a park, others will just have their walk to their venue. But in that time, whether it's their favourite cafe and a coffee, they withdraw. I love that word. I think withdrawing back to the work is going forward rather than going backwards. It's a progression every time you connect to what you're doing and why you're doing it. And it's not to diminish the importance of selling your show, of problem solving, of allowing yourself to feel disappointed if you get a bad review. But actually, that morning ritual for a half an hour, 20 minutes, can just be a kind of withdrawal into your work and a remembering of why you're here and how important, perhaps the most important thing of all, is the work. Here's some work here. Look, you see the little bird who comes to join me and reminds me sometimes to reconnect with nature, which is a good place to remember the work. Got another one over there. I'm not sure if you can see that. What a piece of work is nature. So other ways to connect with the work is simply to have a conversation back home with people who remember you creating this. Others have a mentor, and that can be formal or informal, where they can just once again reconnect with why they're doing what they do. But when we run a workshop, as we often do for FringeReview, called How to Turn Around Disaster, where perhaps people aren't selling enough tickets, they've had bad reviews, other things have gone wrong, is I can get quite tearful, but I look around me and offer to those people a celebration of them, that they brought the work here and that the work is still there. And it may well be that you want to go back into the rehearsal room and improve the work, but it can sound like a cliche, but it is all about the work, and you brought it, in the case of Edinburgh, to the world's largest arts festival, and I salute you, which I truly do. So it's not either or. There are things to be done, but sometimes it can be good to separate off completely and reconnect with the work. And whether it's a morning ritual, whether it's what you do last thing at night, to take out those sketches, to take out those early drawings, that first sketched screenplay, those first drafts of the painting or the sculpture, and just remember what motivated you to bring the work here in the first place. And it can be that leads to a decision to leave the work behind, to go on to something new, to realise perhaps that the journey's over. But that also is a progression, and it's a step forward, and it's at the heart of creativity, that creative output isn't necessarily always inevitable when you start or feel an impulse to make something. It can be that you decide to take a different road. But I would say, if you find yourself in a position where if anybody says, what are you doing here? And your main answers now, occupying your daily life, is, I'm trying to get reviews, I'm trying to sell tickets, I'm trying to solve this or that problem. And it's almost like you've forgotten why you're really here, which is that you're here because you made the work.